How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Excuse me. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Mem Vav, Daf 146 of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends, Daf Kuf Mem Vav, Daf 146 means that there's only 30 pages left of Masechta BavaBasra, the longest Masechta in all of Shas, and it's definitely a long one. I've been studying BavaBasra already for like 5 months. Not sure if it feels like 5 months, maybe like 4 months. But anyways, it's early morning here in Yerushalayim, which is why I am accompanied by a cup of Joe. Let's do it. All right. I'm going to start off Kuf Mem Vav Amid Aleph at the Mishnah. Hashaleach Sivlonos Lives Chomiv. So if a fellow gets engaged to a fella, and so then after they get engaged, he sends all sorts of gifts to his father-in-law's house. That's where his fiancée is, and he sends a bunch of gifts over there. Alright, so if he sends over there 100 manas, meaning 100 manas, I assume it's talking about 100 manas worth of gifts. And he goes to his father-in-law's house and he eats there a suda. Afilu b'dinar, even if all he ate was a dinar's worth, einon nigbin. So then, because he ate over there a dinar's worth, so he's basically, so in the event that like the marriage gets broken off, so because he went there and he ate there, even if all he ate was a dinar's worth, but he's indicating, as the Rashbam says, what does he say? He says, right, because he was so happy and in the spirit of the festivities, he basically said, they're yours permanently to keep. So even if the marriage gets broken off, he can't ask for them back. And the Rashbam points out that there is a distinction between items that are that sort of deteriorate, that get consumed or depleted, and items that don't. For example, something that might get depleted is, I guess, maybe wine, oil, I think maybe even clothing, but things that wouldn't is maybe jewelry. So things that don't get depleted, so let's say jewelry, let's say I gave her jewelry, so he can always ask for that back if the engagement gets broken off. But things that do get depleted, so then it would depend, right? So the Mishnah is saying if he ate with them in machlei bedik, so then at a good time, he says, you know what, you can keep all of these things. He's indicating that by his eating with them. So then those things would not be returned in the case of the marriage being broken off, or the engagement being broken off. If he did not eat with them, well then he would be able to ask for those depletable items back. So again, even if all he consumed was a dinar's worth, eino nigbin, so then he wouldn't, if the engagement is broken off, he would not ask for those items in return. However, if he did not eat over there a sudas chosin, so he would, in the event that the engagement is broken off, he would be able to ask for the return of not just things that don't deplete at all, for example jewelry, but even things that would be consumed, he would be able to ask for in return. Is that English? That makes sense? Shalach sivlonos merubin sheyachzru ima leveis baila hare elu nigbin. If he sold her, if he sent her many gifts and things that the idea is that she would take them, that when they get married and they move in together, she would take these items, right? There's so many of them, she would take them in with him when they lived together. So in the event that the engagement is broken off, he would be able to ask for those items back. Sivlonos mu'atin, however, if he gave just like not a lot of stuff for her to use, so long as she's still living with her father, well then he would not ask for those items back. Coffee break. Says the Gemara, on my Ravit, Davka dinar, have a pachsim dinar lo. It says Ravit that when the Mishnah says that if he consumes a dinar's worth of consumings, well then, so if he consumes a dinar, then he would not be able to ask for those sivlonos in return. If he ate only less than a dinar, he would still be able to ask for the sivlonos in return. Pshita, isn't that obvious? Dinar tanan, after all. The Mishnah says a dinar. Yeah, okay, a dinar. It's the exclusion of less than a dinar. I may have thought that even if he consumes less than a dinar, he would be unable to ask for the sivlonos in return. By the katani dinar, so then why does it say dinar if it even includes less than a dinar? Orcha de milsa katani. Well, it's just it's sort of just the normal thing you would say. Kilu, if he eats even a dinar, you're not going to get into fractions of dinars. So you mentioned a dinar because that's kind of like the standard currency. But in truth, it would even be less than a dinar. That's what I may have thought. So Kamash Malan. So what Rava is coming to teach us is that. So what Rava is coming to teach us is that it is specific. That when it says a dinar, it means a dinar, not less than a dinar. Ochal tanan shosomai. You hear the kasha? The Mishnah says that he eats with them a dinar. What if he drank a dinar? Hu tanan shluchomai. It says if he eats a dinar. What if he sent an emissary and the emissary ate a dinar? Well, a dinar's worth. Sham tanan shagar lo mai. Now it also says that he consumed it there by his father-in-law's house. What if it was fakir? What if the father-in-law sent some stuff to him? My Tashma coming to Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. The Rav Yehuda says the name of Shmuel. There was a maise that there was a fellow who got engaged, Mazel Tov, and he sent to his father-in-law's house Meya Kronis, 100 wagons, Shel Kadayayin, of barrels of pitchers of wine, Shel Kadeshemin, pitchers of oil, pitchers of oil these days. Oh my gosh, 100 pitchers of oil! I can't imagine how much that would cost. Olive oil these days. I have to get more olive oil. The other day I was going to get. At this point in Eretz Yisrael, coffee break. At this point in Eretz Yisrael, I don't know what other people do, but when I say you, I'm really talking about me. At this point in Eretz Yisrael, you don't buy olive oil by the liter anymore. It's too expensive, or even 750 milliliters. You got to buy these gigantic containers of 4 liters of olive oil. And that way, it's like, I wouldn't say it's like you get it comes out to less money per liter, by buying in bulk. So because the olive oil is so expensive that although it is a new year, what time is it? Well, yeah, it was just a new year, right? So maybe things reset. Right? Because I remember last time when I bought olive oil, they said that there just weren't a lot of olives that year, and they said at Rosh Hashanah it'll renew. Maybe I'm going to go and check the prices, but everything's been crazy expensive. But the atak would be nice if actually the prices reset. But last year there was very little olive oil, like Israeli olive oil. So you have to. The last time I bought olive oil was, I think, Pesach time. I bought like a big thing of 4 liters, but now we finally ran out. So I'm going to have to get more. But yeah, who knows? Maybe the price went down. That would be nice. All right, sorry. It's got, we got to talk about Eretz Yisrael. I think it's good, right? It's good to know what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. All right, where are we? Kaliyayim chadeshemen, v'shal chadeshemen, v'shal klei kesef, vessels of silver, v'shal klei zav, vessels of gold, v'shal klei melas, and vessels of wool, I think. V'rochav b'simchaso, and the chosin, the groom, rode along with them in his, what's the word I'm thinking of? In his exuberance? I don't think that's the word I'm thinking of, but in his, I don't know. All right, I think it's like a word with an F in it. In his, I don't know. Let's go weiter. V'holach, and he went v'omar al Pesach beis chomev, and he stood by the entrance of his father-in-law's house. V'otziu kos chamin, and they brought out to him a cup of like mulled wine or something. Is that like heated up wine? V'shasa, and he drank it. All right, umeis, and then ultimately, and then he died before they had an opportunity to actually get married. I don't know that necessarily died from the mulled wine, but he didn't make it to the wedding. So now the shaila is, can they ask for these sivlonis back? V'zo alacha hela Reb Achas Harabira b'fnei chacham leusha da. So Rav Achas Harabira, he raised this scenario before the Chachamim in Usha, which is one of the places that the Sanhedrin was exiled to. Was this? It must have been towards the end. 1 second. What is the? Was it at the end of the? No. I don't know. Does not. Okay. Anyways, but Usha, was that before the destruction of the temple or after? I'm actually not sure. I think maybe it was after. I'd have to look it up. Sivlonis ha'asuyim libalis, and they said that when it comes to these sivlonis that are asuyim libalis, that get depleted, for example, wine, oil, clothing, a nigbin would not be collected. Would not be collected in return. Oh, okay. Now, if the things that don't get depleted, I imagine like jewelry, nigbin would be able to be collected in return. So, in response to this scenario where this chosin drank this wine at the doorway, not inside the house of his father-in-law, but at the doorway of his father-in-law, that was considered enough for him to have been considered to have partaken in the Suda, in the festivities, and to say that he would not be able to retrieve the sivlonis. Shmamina afilu shasa. So we see that even drinking, because he drank wine, he didn't necessarily eat food, he drank wine. Shmasmina afilu pachos medina. And therefore, and we also see even less, there was just one cup of hot wine. Apparently that is valued at less than a dinar. And so we see that even so, it was considered to have partaken. So Omer Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi man leimalon delo shachakele marganisa deshavi alfezuze v'ashke. Once again, we don't know the price of that cup of wine. Maybe they took a pearl and they grinded it up and they put pearl powder in his wine. And then it became a very expensive cup of wine. Shmasmina afilu shagrulo. And we see that even if they sent him wine, right? Because they said that it says in the incident that they sent him this cup of wine, and he drank it at the entrance to his father-in-law's house. Dilma, 1 second. Okay. Dilma kol pochis. Yeah, but maybe if it says that he was by the entrance to his father-in-law's house, maybe the entrance is considered like the actual house, in which case it wasn't actually considered like they sent it to him, but rather that he was actually there. Okay, but it does seem though that drinking though, however, would be considered significant. Coffee break. I'm going to drink, and it'll be like I ate. Okay, says the Gemara. Yibaru de'asa kasha maushi shalish shvach sivlonis. Okay. So what about right? So what if these items that are being returned increased in value between the time that they were given and the time that they were returned? To whom belongs the appreciation? Ma'okevan de'i isnu ledidei hadre birshuse shavoach. Do we say that, well, since I guess when he is around, I guess so long as he's alive, I guess they would return them to him. I mean, I guess if they get divorced or whatever, so they would return to him, so it's considered like they're his, and it's his appreciation. Or Dilma came the avde or mignaver. Do we say that? Or alternatively, if they were to get lost or they would get stolen by shalumele, then they would be the wife's family would be responsible to repay them. So Bershusa Dida Shavuach, so we should consider it to be in her possession, and therefore it's the appreciation belongs to her. Take uchveisnish. Boy Rava asks a kasha. Sivlonis or hasuyin libolis velo balumau. You hear the kasha? So what if you have these gifts that that are things that would depreciate, but they didn't, right? I don't know. Let's say you have clothing or something, and normally they would get worn out, but they didn't. They're still in the same exact condition as they were received. So the shaila is, do we say that, well, since, right, because we said that if he partook's the word? Great. So since we said that if he partook with, the festivities, so then he's moichel the sivlonos ha'asuyin libalos, okay? And he would not be able to ask for them in return if they get divorced or whatever. Now, okay, but what if they are items that are the types of things that would get depleted, but they didn't? They're still in pristine condition, the same condition. So then, since they're in the same exact condition, would they be considered like jewelry, like things that don't get depleted, and they should be able to be returned even if he partook in the Suda? You like the kasha? By Rava asks, I'm reading again, Sivlonis asuyin libalos. If you have these gifts that that are the types of things that would get depleted, however, velo balu, but they didn't get depleted. Mao, what do? Do we treat them like gifts that don't get depleted, or do we treat them like gifts that do get depleted? Tashma kam near v'zoy aloche hela Rabbi Sarbi lefnei chacham beusha. This halacha was brought by Rabbi Sarbi before the chachamim in Usha v'amru, and they said sivlonis ha'asuyin libolis, that these gifts that are that get worn out, ein nigbin, are not returned. V'she'ein asuyin libolis, and if they don't get depleted, nigbin, they are collected, they are returned. So my lav, afalgab dilobal. So we want to say that when it says sivlonis asuyin libalus, a nigbin, that we want to say that when it says that gifts that are of the type that get worn out are not returned. So we want to say that they under no circumstances are returned, that they are not returned under any circumstances. That meaning, if they're the type of item that gets worn out, it doesn't matter if it did or didn't get worn out. If it's the type of gift that gets worn out, it is not returned. Even though they did not get worn out, it makes no difference. They would not be returned. They would be kept and retained by the fiance's or the ex-fiance's house. No. Dibal. Okay, we want to say no. That when the Chacham ben Usha said that Sivlonos Asuyin Libalos a Nigbin, it means if they did get worn out, but if they didn't get worn out, then maybe then we could argue that they would be returned to Hashma come near. Sivlonis mu'atin. So the Mishnah had said that when there's sivlonis mu'atin, just a little bit of these gifts, for her to use, so long as she's in her father's house, ein nigbin, they are not collected, they're not returned. So we want to argue that could be talking about sivlonos ha'asuyin libalos, that it could be talking about sivlonos that would of the type that would get depleted, and even though they did not get depleted, they would be a nigbin, right? She would keep them. Tigma Rava b'yeva v'sav chiso. But Rava says, well, yeah, that's specifically talking about small little like garment kind of things that aren't particularly important, and that's why she can keep them. But maybe if there were other things, then they would be returned. Okay. Omer Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. This is unit in Rav. Ma'aseh b'adam echad sheshagur leveis chomev yain chodosh v'shemen chodosh. There was a ma'aseh with a person who sent to his father-in-law as a gift yain chodosh, new wine, v'shemen chodosh, and new oil, v'chlei pishton, and chodosh, and new flax, new linen garments. Ba'atzeres on Shavuos. My Kamash Malon, what's it teaching us? Well, either I could say that, it's just saying the Shevach of Eretz Yisrael, that in Eretz Yisrael, the oil and grapes and flax, they ripen so quickly that already by Shavuos, you can have new oil from the new year, or from the new latest harvest, or wine from the latest harvest, or flax from the latest harvest. Alternatively, the itoin ta'anose taina. Alternatively, if he if he wants to make a taina that, hey, I sent you these gifts and I want them back, so we don't say, what are you talking about? How can you have wine already by Shavuos? No, we're saying that you could already have wine by Shavuos. Okay, and oil and flax. All right, coffee break. Omar of Yehuda, Omar, Rav Ma'aseh b'adam echad, there was a mice with a person, Sharmulo, that they said to him, Ishto totronis. They said to him that his wife is she has no sense of smell. Now the thing is that is a mum shebeseser. It is a hidden mum that he was unaware of, and this could be a reason for divorce. Shamlo ishto totronis, they said that she can't smell. So he said, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. So he went with her into some kind of abandoned building. Omrla, and he says to her, and he came with some radishes. Omrla, and he says to her, I smell, I guess, some Galilean radish, to see if she smells what he's smelling. Omrla, and she says to him, Man yoiv lon mekozviz dericho ve'achalna be. And she I think she kind of caught on to what he was doing, and she's saying, yeah, well, we better get some dates from Jericho so we can eat them together with the radishes. Okay. And now, Nafal Allah Churva Vamesa, but then the abandoned building collapsed and she died. The Chacham said, Hoyovlo nichnas achrea el levodka mesa inu yosha. Since he went there just to test her, to see if she has some kind of defect, and if so, he was going to divorce her, well, that would be considered already nosan ein of legarsha, that already he was considering divorcing her, and therefore at that point, eno yorsha, he would be unable to inherit her. Sorry, guy. Sivlonis mu'atin shetishamish ben b'veis aviv v'chulei. So the Mishnah talked about these, little bits of gifts that she would consume in her father's house, he would not ask for it in return. Yosef Ravin Sove, commented Rav Papa Yosef Ka'omar. Ravin Sove was before Rav Papa, and he asks, Bein Shemes Ahi, or he said, Bein Shemes Ahi, Uvein Shemes Hu, whether she died or whether he died, Hadar Hu, or whether he initiated a divorce, Sivlonis Hadre Maichul Umishte Lo Hadre. So the gifts would be returned, but not food. So meaning, right? So these gifts, which are sivlonas de lo asi libalos, right? Things that, jewelry, things like that, those would be returned, but not ochelum, right? Not ma'achul mishta, because those are things that get depleted. Hadrabe ba'i, but if she's the one who initiated a divorce, well then hadra afilu kisha de yarka, well then even just bundles of vegetables which would get depleted, those would be returned as well. Amrafuna Bredu of Yeshua v'shamin loin t'mei basar bizol ad kama bizol ad tilsa. That when we're evaluating the value of any food or whatever that has been consumed, we evaluate it at sort of in the same way that we evaluate a cheaper rate for meat, which is up to a third less of the value. Well, that was Daf Kuf Mem Vav of Masechta BavaBasra. We talked about when the groom gives like these gifts, and depending on if they get depleted or not, can he ask for them in return, and depending on if he consumed from the Suda together with them. Peace out.